Sinister Sisters Crime and Curiosity podcast. I am Ash, and I'm with my lovely co-host Bree.
Hello.
And we dive into cases. We are not professionals, may not have every detail perfectly accurate, and we're not claiming to be professionals. We are simply two best friends who are deeply interested in true crime, strange and unexplained deaths, documentaries, conspiracies, and all cases that leave us with more questions than answers. This space is meant for curiosity, discussion, and storytelling. If this is not your thing, feel free to scroll past. No hard feelings. You have free will to move on, and we will never know. Again, we are not professionals. We also want to state that we mean no disrespect to individuals involved or their loved ones. If we mispronounce names or get any of the details wrong or incomplete, it is never intentional, and we truly apologize in advance. At this time, we have not reached to where we are interviewing people directly. So all the information we do discuss does come from public available sources, such as articles, reports, podcasts, and other online materials. And all individuals mentioned are presumed innocent unless proven otherwise in the court of law. Any opinions expressed are for discussion and storytelling purposes only and should not be taken as factual conclusions. Listeners' discretion is advised. Period.
That's a disclaimer.
Just law and order in it.
Cover all bases.
Right.
Some people get rude. This is a hobby. This is for fun. No disrespect.
Right.
But this is all true information.
Yeah.
So I will just dive into it, I guess. Little story time. A little story I came across, but a true story.
This one is crazy.
Yeah, right? So did you look into it?
I listened to podcasts and watched some videos. This one's a crazy.
So it's kind of like a wrongful weird death Wednesday, but more weird. Kind of, would you say?
Yeah, definitely wrongful all the way.
So it definitely fits in the category of a weird death Wednesday, but more weird on the weird side, and I will get into it. So today, if hopefully you guys are not aware before, because I'm going to try to make this discussing the story of John Darwin, and just a little bit about John. John was born in the early 50s, a man from the UK. He had later studied biology and chemistry in college. He was also a prison guard, and I think he also had another job that I cannot remember off the top of my head. But anyway, John Darwin was married. He was married to a woman named Anne Stevenson. They got married in 1973, and she worked as a receptionist in a doctor's office. But also, John and his wife kind of like rented out rooms in England. They're called bedsits, but it's basically just like they rent out rooms to people, kind of like an Airbnb situation, where they would just own these properties or these rooms and just rent them out. So, besides all of that, just a little hobby, Darwin, I guess, was John Darwin, who we're talking about, was an avid kayaker and took his kayak out to sea at a seaside resort called Seaton. I'm butchering this. Seaton Carew. I apologize, I probably said that wrong. And this was on March 21st, 2002. Now, the crazy thing about this is he never returned. So took his kayak out to this resort, this in the sea, and just never returned in 2002. He was reported missing, of course, by his wife a day later that day. And also he failed to report to work. So obviously he was reported missing, and this was out of character for John. So after last being seen kayaking, of course, the sea was searched a total of 6,200 I apologize. 62 square miles. It was searched. I apologize. The sea was searched, people. As well as the coastline, and there was no sight of John. So, where is John? Later that day, his paddle and kayak were found. That was wrecked, but still no body, no idea where John is. Years has passed now, 5 years to be exact. That's a long time. No sign of John, no body. All that was found was his paddle and kayak. Also, there was reports of the sea being very calm this day, so it was very odd that he would kind of get into a kayak wreck that day. But now we are 5 years later, and there's still no sign of John. But, alas, a Christmas miracle. On December 1st, 2007, 5 years later, a man walked into the West End Central Police Station in London. So, finally, a lead. Somebody might know something about John 5 years later. Well, guess what? It was John. John himself has a rose. Merry Christmas. Walks into this police station and is basically like, hey guys, I have amnesia. I don't know what has happened. I have no memory of the last 5 years. Very crazy. So, of course, John's wife is like thrilled, like, oh my god, you're alive. It's been 5 years. I love you. Blah, blah, blah. Except Anne knew exactly where he was. And his wife knew that he was alive. And basically, this was all staged. This was all a plan.
A whole scheme.
A whole plan to have John fake his death for the insurance money. Basically, John and his wife Anne were in debt with, their whole business. Renting out those properties wasn't going well, I guess. Just debt from their own home. And John just had the idea of, let me fake my death. And we'll get money that way. So, anyway, Anne's, doing this whole thing like, oh my gosh, you're alive, thank God. 5 years later. But let me tell you, in the meantime, in those 5 years, what John and Anne were doing. So, John and Anne seemed to really favor Panama. They were in Panama multiple times. He would like I said, he faked his own death, but he also got a fake passport. Ash, can you help me out with this a little bit? I'm kind of stumbling. Did you hear about this part where he got a fake passport, a whole fake identity?
Yeah. He knew he had to change identities or whatever.
Yeah. So I think the name he started going with was John Jones. I have it in here.
I think so.
I think it was John Jones, which is funny because you're John Darwin, but let me just make my new name John Jones or whatever.
They was out in the elements.
Out living their best life in all these tropical islands with the money that his wife had gained from his death because everybody thought that he was dead. So he willingly faked his own death, like we've been talking about, to gain the insurance money. He supposedly got 250,000 euros to pay off his home and other debt. So while John was dead, he lived next door to his home in one of the bedsits that he would rent out. That was for a little bit before secretly moving back into his home that was next door. So he has his home that he shares with his wife Anne, and then I guess next door is a rental property that he would rent out to people. He just secretly stayed there for a little bit and hid, and then eventually went back home to Anne. But in the midst of this, bouncing back and forth, one of his old tenants that lived in the home next door, I guess, seen him and was like, hey, aren't you supposed, literally, I think the exact words were, aren't you supposed to be dead? And then John was just like, don't tell anybody about this. And that person did exactly what John asked and said nothing. So this could have all probably been stopped ahead of time instead of wasting 5 years, but the person that seen him was just like, no, I'm good. So let me get back into my notes here. So I'll just read. So I just basically told you that. Oh yeah. So during his 5 years, like we just said, he was on vacation a lot. Him and his wife. They supposedly visited an island that was off the Mediterranean Sea, and John had applied for a passport under the fake name, like we had briefly said, John Jones. Now, I had heard that this John Jones name is supposed to be the name of the recently deceased infant that he just stole. So, while him and his wife were out living their best life on all of these islands, they were shopping for properties to rent out. So, to continue that business that they were doing just in these beautiful islands. So, also, John ended up shopping for a boat, and then that was also in Panama. So they were going from like all these different islands, but for some reason they favored Panama. John and his wife had traveled to multiple islands with their new financial freedom, but they seemed to have favored Panama. The couple would eventually form a new company called Jaguar Properties. So, pretty much like I just said, went to all these islands trying to buy properties to rent out. Got their own little business going over there, but they made a little mistake. One of the property managers had asked to take a picture with them, and they stupidly said yes. Took a group picture with this, I guess you might as well say like a realtor picture, and the person put it up on the internet on their website for everybody to see. Now, if you're supposed to be dead, I don't know why you would do that. Things don't change in Panama. You're still supposed to be dead worldwide, not just in the UK.
Stupid is as stupid does.
Yeah, so that was just a mistake. That was a mistake. And that would come back to haunt them, of course. Let's see where I'm at. So, also, the couple had 2 sons. So while they were in Panama, the one son, Mark, had sold one of their bedsit properties and transferred the money to Panama to his parents. And then came back to the UK to sell the family home that they originally lived in before all of this had happened. And John had stayed in Panama and supposedly bought a tropical estate that they were hoping to rent out. But they were not out of the woods yet. One of Anne's colleagues supposedly overheard a conversation between Anne and John, and the colleague, I guess, said something, and that led to a police investigation. So, they got a couple months more of paradise before a change in Panama's visa laws would lead to John Darwin, aka John Jones at the time, to stop everything and stop this whole gimmick.
Wait a second.
John had.
So, did you know in 2004 he came to Kansas City, Missouri?
Yeah. I wasn't going to say all that, but I did know that. Yeah. Do you want to say that to some of the listeners?
So he acted like he was as an international angel investor and was trying to purchase a rundown agriculture property in Kansas. But I guess like he was staying at this lady's house and then he just started acting weird or something and she felt uncomfortable with him staying there. And then he went and stayed somewhere else that was in, I guess, in Kansas, and the whole thing like fell through. And he ended up starting to send this lady death threats. And she was like scared to for her life. And then he ended up going back, I guess, to Panama.
Yeah. all under this fake name of John
John
Jones.
Jones.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they met through a game that they played online. They like befriended each other.
Yeah, fantasy role playing game.
Yeah, so it was nothing romantic. They were just friends online, and I guess he ended up going out there, and like you said, was gonna be a business partner with her. They were gonna buy something, and I think it was like a ranch, right? Oh, Ashley froze. But I think it was like something to do with horses. Hello?
I can hear you.
Am I right?
He like wanted his money back or something because the thing fell through. He wanted his money back, so he was sending like death threats and threatening to send the mob to her family. I didn't see where it said anything about well, yeah, there was like the goal was to convert it into a commercial cattle farm. So yeah.
So this dude was just traveling. Just
He was traveling. He had plans. He was in the elements.
USA, Panama, UK.
But he was supposed to be dead this whole entire time.
Right. I think they all Costa Rica on a vacation.
Yeah, I think so.
Just living their best life.
In the elements.
Yeah. So where am I at? Oh yeah, so the whole police investigation started because one of Anne's colleagues had overheard a conversation that they were having. And she's like, oh wait, hold up, you're supposed to be dead. And then that's the whole police investigation.
You're supposed to hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be dead.
Right. But supposedly Panama had changed their passport laws. Sorry, I'm just going to read this. This is going to sound a little bit bad. Darwin emailed his wife saying that their identities were now having to be verified by UK police in order for them to receive their now required Panamerian investor visas. So John chose to read. So this is when basically he's like, I can't hide it anymore. They're going to be like asking more questions. They're going to look into it. I got to like give up this whole gimmick or whatever. So this is when John returned to the UK 5 years later, claiming to have amnesia and saying that he had no idea of the past 5 years.
Oh, I just want to point out something real quick. You know, neither one of his, they hid the truth, like, this from their sons, too, right? Like, their sons didn't know anything about this. Like, they thought he was dead, too.
Right. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
So where am I at?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, right, okay, so he comes back into the police station, says this whole thing about amnesia, but remember, like we just said, the colleague had started this police investigation because she's like, I'm pretty sure I heard, this conversation between Anne and John, who was supposed to be dead.
Right.
So that came back to haunt them. They found the picture online, also of them with the person in Panama. Sorry. So after all of this, they were pretty much like, okay, like you have us photographed in Panama. Here's John in the flesh. And police had went to Panama to interview Anne because John is in the UK now by himself, and Anne is still in Panama, his wife. So an investigator goes to interview Anne while she's in Panama. The investigator shows Anne the picture, like, hey, you guys were together in Panama trying to buy property. Anne confesses everything, and basically everything is done. So, also, speaking of the sons did give a statement and said that they felt like they were victims of a scam in which they had no further contact with their parents. John was arrested at one of the sons' home, and he was charged with insurance fraud and making false statements to obtain a passport. Anne was arrested the following day at the airport. She was in a UK airport returning back to the UK from Panama, and that is where they arrested her. After multiple times in court, John and Anne were convicted of fraud, and John received an extra charge due to faking the passport. John got 6 years, so this is interesting to me. John got 6 years and 3 months in prison, but oddly enough, Anne got a little more. She got 6 years and 6 months. John was released on probation so after 3 years of being in prison, John was released on probation in January of 2011, but Anne would follow in March of 2011. I just think it's kind of funny that like Anne got more time, I guess.
It's because she pleaded guilty. Or she pleaded not guilty. That's why she got longer. So even though they got caught, she was still trying to be like, nah, not me.
They're still in prison.
Like
Yeah.
what we see.
Right. All the evidence. But as of 2015, the pair no longer had any more assets, paying back a total of 541,762 euros. The pair divorced in 2012 and are living separately. So Anne now lives in the UK still, and she does have a relationship with her 2 sons. I guess they reconciled and she has grandkids now, and I guess everything was okay there. As for John, he remarried and now lives in the Philippines with his new wife. And that is the story of John Darwin. That is what I have.
Crazy.
Yes.
Just out here in the freaking elements.
Yeah. So a wrong/weirdful death, but not death. Or a wrongful/weird death runs.
My man's was out here.
Just out here living the life I want.
He said, alive or dead.
Right.
We're out here.
Right.
We
That
said,
shows you how desperate.
he
that
said we're
shows-
gonna make this money today.
Right. That goes to show you how desperate people get.
Right.
And hey, it worked for 5 years. I mean, they
Right.
were out there living.
Right.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. A little different from what we usually do, but I thought it was so interesting.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting.
But there's multiple videos on YouTube about this. I think there's like a movie remake, a UK version. They made a movie off of this, I think I saw when I looked it up online. So there's a lot more information by others that I'm sure might explain it a little better than me, but hopefully you guys like this story.
This was interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
But yes, that is all for me. Thank you for listening and watching.
And remember, don't be a savage, be a bad bitch.
Hey.